This is Betsy Jensen, and you are listening to Unstoppable Body and Mind, episode 102, 4 Ways Teens Trigger Survival Brain and Relaxation Challenge with Torie. In this podcast, we learn to upgrade our brain and understand the power of our thoughts, to heal and to create the results we want in our life. Become the person in control of your healing and make peace with your life. Become unstoppable, body and mind. All right. Hello, my loves. Today I have a special guest, Torie Henderson. She is a life coach for exhausted, overwhelmed moms. So if you're a mom, you probably fit into that category. So I have her on today. We're going to talk about some interesting things and a really fun challenge that she and I are collaborating on at the end of this month. So more details on that at the end. But first, welcome, Torie.
Thank you for having me, Betsy. I'm very excited to be here.
My pleasure. I'm excited to have you here. Your focus is really more working with moms of teens specifically, right?
I like to say like 9 to 19 is kind of my window because when puberty begins to the time they're out of the house, because there's a lot of podcasts and a lot of parenting support for the preschool years and the baby years and stuff. And my background is as a classroom teacher, and I personally love the ages of adolescence and pre-adolescence and stuff, but I have plenty of moms who are exhausted and overwhelmed with younger children, and I coach them too.
Okay. And that is particularly of interest to me, having at one time I had 4 teenagers. My oldest just turned 20. So now I only have 3 teenagers and a 20-year-old.
Only 3.
And throughout the podcast, also listen for, we're going to talk about, if you don't have teens, you're not in this specific category, there might be some other ways that this applies to other scenarios in your life with triggering events. We're basically talking about teenagers and the top ways that they can trigger survival brain.
Yeah, certainly there's some ways it'll be applicable to, I would say, family members, especially. Yeah, family or close friends that this is going to apply to.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you're raising kids, when kids are little, you're in survival mode, literally. Like you barely get enough sleep, you barely have time to eat. You can't take your eyes off your kid or they could drown in an inch of water. I mean, it's a scary stage, right? But it kind of primes our brain to be on high alert, where you're like, I can't take my eye off the ball. I have to always be looking out and make sure they're okay. And, if they're crying, it is 100% your business. If your baby is crying, that's on you. But when your 13-year-old is crying, some of us still have this response of oh no, my 13-year-old's crying. Like, it's my job to fix it. I have to help her. Something's wrong. And it's like our brain kind of gets stuck in those toddler years when it's really not our job to fix it or to solve it. And then we don't know what are we supposed to do when our 13-year-old is crying and I hate school and I'm ugly and I'm fat, nobody likes me. And as moms, we're just like, I must fix you now, we get stuck in that toddler mom brain. And we forget to give our brain the update, just like your computer, your iPhone needs the update every once in a while.
Right.
Our brains need that update and saying okay, wait a second here. My daughter's 10. Is this really an emergency that she's unhappy? And just having to talk ourselves down and use our kind of logical brain and really try to figure out, because it changes every year. 100% of your child's emotional state when they're babies and toddlers is your business. But every year it becomes less and less your business and more their business, And so by the time they're 30, if they're having a meltdown, you're like, 10% is my business, 90% is theirs. So during those tween and teen years, or when this is transitioning, is it my job to contact the teacher? because she doesn't understand why she got a F on her paper, or is it their job? Like, how much should I get
Yeah.
involved? Should I let her fail? Should I try to help? Should I intervene? She won't let me,
Yeah.
you know, uh, that kind of stuff. And whether it's with school or with friends, it's a age of transitions for both moms and for kids.
Yeah. So
So
it
there,
sounds like this
yeah.
can happen to really good moms. And I'm using some heavy air quotes here for good, like especially moms that are trying to really be good and maybe even change some of the things from what they experienced. And people who are listening to this podcast obviously are into coaching. So this can happen to anyone, right?
I like to say that I work with moms who fall under the 4 Ps: perfectionism, people pleasing, self pressure, and pushing through.
Oh my
Like, I'm
gosh.
tired, but I can't afford to be tired.
Those are like exactly the same, by the way, as I haven't heard it exactly in those terms, but a lot of overlap with personality traits that are very dominant with people with chronic pain.
Yeah,
People
well, and
pleasing,
I had chronic pain, and
perfectionism.
I am my own, client, right? Like, we
That's
we teach what we
true.
both need to learn, and
That's
so
right.
yeah, I think what's hard is, you introduced me and you said I work with overwhelmed, exhausted moms, and so you're like, well, if you're a mom, that's probably you, right? Like, there is this kind of cultural norm that when you're struggling and you go to your friends and you're like, I'm exhausted, like I'm so overwhelmed, they're like, yeah, welcome to motherhood.
Right,
Like,
right.
that's normal. And so it's hard for those of us who are really struggling to be like, why is this so much harder for me?
Mm,
Why can't I be one of those moms that's like, ah, whatever, it's fine, no big deal? And it's perfectionism, people pleasing, self pressure, and pushing.
pushing through. Yeah. Okay. That makes so much sense. All of those things dysregulate the nervous system right there, right? All of those things. And so if we have tendencies which might have gotten us pretty far in life, they're not totally bad. But we also, again, like you said, the outdated programs, we just want to really assess, are these traits helping us right now in this situation?
Like you just said, you're like, oh, so like a good mom, right? Like,
Yeah.
our society rewards us for being
Right.
perfectionistic, people pleasing, and putting pressure on ourselves to like do good work and be a good mom and be involved and be aware, and
Right.
like it's almost like if you're, I remember having that moment of thinking, I think that good moms worry about their kids. I have a belief in my
Yes.
brain that says, if you're not worried about your
Yeah.
kids, you're a slacker.
Right, right. Okay, so then exactly, your brain will actually find evidence to start worrying about because you believe that's what makes a good mom. And then we know how much, worry, anxiety, stress affect the body. I mean, that just destroys the body. And what we also know is that worry is not necessary, right? It's not our job. It's not helping anyone.
It's not helping. I mean, I remember trying to find like someone to go. I wanted to send my 9-year-old to summer camp. And I asked around like all of his friends, like, anybody else want to send their kid to summer camp? They're like, oh, what? No,
Right.
I
Well,
can't let
this
him
is
out of my sight,
Yeah, it's such a great analogy because with living with chronic pain, you get in high alert, and then safety, like feeling good about things, starts to feel unsafe. And so, like, it's kind of this idea of like, if I'm a relaxed mom, if I'm a, like happy mom, if I'm like letting my child, do things without me freaking out all the time, somehow I'm a bad mom. That's a survival state versus, you know, thinking that you can be in a more calm state and that is safe. Your
yeah,
child will survive that way.
yeah, and it's our culture. Like, if you go to the
Yes.
Netherlands or Denmark or something, they have a high trust culture.
Yes.
They just trust that everything's
Yeah.
gonna be okay,
Yeah.
and that people are good and their government's going to take care of them. And it's like, and nobody, if nobody else is worried around you, then
Yeah.
you absorb that like a sponge. And so it's no
Yeah.
surprise when the Netherlands and Denmark rank highest on happiness ratings of
Yeah.
all the countries, right?
Right.
So when
Oh wow.
you're sensitive and you live in a high stress, high worry culture where worry is normal,
Yes.
it's easy to pick it up.
Watching 24-hour news. I mean, it's easy to find things to worry about. You just open the paper, flip on the news, turn on your phone. I'm like, how do I stop these Apple updates? Because I'm like, I don't even want to see, like, they just give them to me. So, okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the top 4 ways that teenagers trigger the survival state, our survival brain.
Right. So you might have been working all this time trying to calm yourself down and get out of chronic pain and learn to relax the nervous system. And then adolescence hits.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're living in an environment that is a little more dysregulated, a little more chaotic, a little more emotional, right? So the number one way, probably I would say, this is probably like above everything else, that how kids early at any age can trigger our survival brain is, and it shows up, it's sneaky. So I'm going to tell you, it shows up sneakily. Okay.
Mhm.
Because I'll have moms come to me and they'll say, like, my kid, it doesn't take school seriously enough. He doesn't care about his grades. My kid takes school too seriously. She like cares too much, stays up too late. I'm worried about her.
Mhm.
My kid always wants to be out of the house, never wants to be home, always with friends. My kid doesn't have any friends. He just wants to be home all the time.
Mhm.
It's like, whatever it is, we're going to worry about it. Okay.
Mhm.
And my kid's spending too much time on social media. She's always on her phone, she, whatever.
Yeah.
It's, we find these things to worry about. And we think that the problem is the cell phone, or the
Yeah.
problem is the grades, right? But what triggers our nervous system, triggers that to be a pain point for us, is seems to always come back to this thought of, I'm failing.
Yeah.
I'm not doing my job as a mother. If my kid sleeps till noon, I'm not a good mom. If their bedroom is constantly messy, I'm not
Mhm.
a good mom. Doesn't matter what the complaint seems to be.
Yeah.
My kid wears dorky clothes. My kid looks like a bum whenever when they leave the house.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It always seems to boil back to, I'm failing, right? We live in what I call a blame the mom culture.
Yeah.
Your kid's a hot mess, must be mom's fault.
Mhm.
Somehow we picked up on this idea.
Right.
And so that is a huge trigger when our ego gets involved and we think we have to fight for our success or failure as a mom, something that we care so much about. I mean, I don't know about you, but like if I'm going to be good at anything in my life, like being a mom is like way up there. Like I want to be a good
Yeah.
mom. Like that's so important to me.
Yeah.
And so when I'm doing this, perfectionism is black and white thinking. I'm either a
Mhm.
good mom or a bad mom. I'm either failing or succeeding.
Mhm.
Then it triggers our nervous system, go into survival mode, and we're like, you need to get out of bed right now.
Yes.
Get out of this house, go make some friends. And we kind of come at this like, you might yell at your kid to turn off the TV and you're like, God, why am I so reactive?
Yeah.
Why is the TV, it bugs me? It's because you put your ego on the line.
Yeah. Well, and that makes so much sense then when you're putting all of your emotions based on this teenager's behavior. Like, how crazy of a thought is that to base your judgment on if you're doing well or not on how this other person who's going through all of these changes in their lives and is in
Hormones
like
and
how,
friendship
yeah,
drama
how they
and
behave is going to determine if you're a good person or not, if you can have a happy day or
mhm.
not. Like, I've had people even clients tell me like, well, my mood is really just based on how my teenager feels that day.
We're gonna get to that one.
Yeah,
That's number 3.
okay. Okay.
I think if you want a recipe for a crazy, stressed out mom with
Mhm.
chronic pain, let's throw that in there.
Yeah.
What you do is you take your ability to feel like a good mother and you put it in the hands of an adolescent.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, adolescent, please make me feel like I'm doing a good job. Make
Hmm.
me feel successful. Show me that I've done right. Because that adolescent does not care about your ego. And
Mm-mm.
they're doing their own emotional roller coaster,
Sure. We
right?
all
They don't want
know.
to take
Yeah.
care of your emotional needs too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's really like the big one. And then the second one that kind of follows up on that is our tendency to see a behavior
Mhm.
in our adolescent that we don't approve of. When kids are little, we're like, oh, they're so cute. And then they hit to the adolescent years like, oh,
Yeah.
I can tweak this. This needs room.
Yeah.
There's room for improvement here. Nobody tops out at 13. Like that's not like the best years of your life, right? When it
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
to being confident or being, kind of friendly or just new navigating social nuances. Like most people don't want to go back and relive those years from
Mm-mm.
12 to 14.
Right.
So we're going to see room for improvement.
Yeah.
But what happens is our brains tend to futurize and catastrophize.
Mm-hmm.
My kid just wants to lay around all day. And then we go 10 years into the future, like, oh
Yeah.
my God, he's going to be a bum living on my couch. He's never going to have a job. He's going to
Right.
be living off the family dole. Everyone's going to think, he's a loser and so am I. Right. And we just go all the way into
Yeah.
some dark, dismal future picture. And then our nervous system is responding to the picture that we just created in our imagination
Yeah.
of this future scenario where our
Yeah.
kid is miserable and has no friends and no job. And it's,
Yeah. Totally. We freak
oh,
ourselves out, and then our nervous system, our brain doesn't really know what is true and not. And if we are really imagining something, our nervous system can react to it just as if we are in that situation or being chased by a tiger. Same chemicals are released.
exactly. Exactly. So the futurizing and catastrophizing, something that you see today, and it could be anything, right? You catch your
Mm-hmm.
kid watching porn, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, he's an addict, and it's 10 years down the road, and he has no
Yeah.
relationships and no healthy, whatever. Like we can go into all sorts of, if
Right.
our brain
Oh, yeah. And we hear there's
unsupervised, just
evidence, you could find some evidence somewhere. You can get on the internet and you could be like, oh, what's the worst that could happen? Or our brains are just good at doing that, right? Like somewhere we've heard of something.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, right? You hear some story that happened to one person, you're like, oh no, it's gonna happen for
yes,
sure.
right.
And
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
So it's
So
basically
number
like
two,
what we do with pain, where we catastrophize, and rather than being kind of in the moment and actually knowing what is going on here and now, we go to this is never going to change. And oh, now I'm, broken forever. All these things, catastrophizing. It's no
yeah.
good. It really triggers the nervous system.
And it's so fun. Like I'll bring moms together. I have my leading your teen group class. I have a one-on-one program, or I have a group class for people who, when they have a lot of similarities.
Ah,
It's
gotcha.
so fun to bring them together in group. It's like medicine for the soul,
Yeah.
because they'll listen to the other moms and they'll be like, I'm normal. My kids are
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
It's the opposite effect of social media. If you go on Instagram, everyone's like, oh, my 20, my mini me, my mother daughter bestie. And you get like
Yeah.
jealous. That's my
Right.
podcast that just came out. She's like, I'm so jealous of all these moms, right?
Oh,
But you
yes.
don't see behind the scenes. So when you offer a group class, you get to see behind the Instagram
Yeah.
curtain, and you're like, oh, this is totally normal and we're going to be okay. And it's not that big of a
Yeah.
deal. And it just helps to put it in perspective, and it just
Yeah.
calms us down right away.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. So
Yeah.
good.
So that's the first one is, kind of the I'm a failure. The
Mm-hmm.
putting your ego into the hands of your kid. The second one is this futurizing, catastrophizing. The third one
Mm-hmm.
is what you mentioned, right? Where these mama says, my mood depends on my kid's mood. Now, this applies at any
What?
age.
Okay. That literally is like said often enough that that is number 3 on your list. So this is common, guys. It's common.
I remember like listening to Dr. Phil or something, and he says, you are only as happy as your least happy child. And I was like, what? Like, my kid had
Whoa.
depression. He was
Oh my
not happy.
gosh.
And
Then
I'm
you're
like,
like,
are you
okay, well,
telling
I
me
can't be
I can't be
happy.
happy?
Oh, dang.
And like, that's a thing, right? That people
Right.
think that they can only be as happy as their least happy child. So
Yeah.
now I have to make my kid happy
Oh,
so that
geez.
I can feel at peace.
Oh my gosh. Right.
So I call this over empathizing. I
Mm-hmm.
call it, well, what I teach moms to do is something I call taking the emotional lead in
Mm-hmm.
the home. Because when kids are little, they're so cute and happy and adorable. And, like
Yeah.
you can go to work, have a bad day, be in a grumpy mood, and you walk in the house and your kids are like, Mommy, we love you, you're the best. And they just are like filled with loves and kisses, that you can let your kids take the emotional leadership in the house,
Mm.
because it's great.
Mhm.
They're happy most of the time. They'll
Yeah.
lift you up, and now you're like,
Right.
"Oh, I don't feel so bad anymore. My love tank
Totally.
is filled. My kids adore me. Who
Yeah.
cares what my boss had to say every word, whatever."
Totally.
Well, if you let your kids continue to take the emotional lead in the home
Yeah.
all the way through adolescence, then suddenly you are riding the roller coaster ride of adolescence right along with them.
Mhm.
Like, is it a good day or a bad
Yeah.
day? And like, oh, I'm holding my breath. I hope today's a good day.
Yeah.
And you don't get, it doesn't feel good to give control of your own emotional state over to an adolescent who does not do a very good job of taking care of that for us.
Yes, that's the worst kind of like decision to make, to give it to someone who's just trying to figure out themselves.
And we have these mirror neurons in our brains, right? That kind
Yeah.
of, that's why we cry at movies,
Yeah.
and we smile at babies and they smile back. Like, we're
Yeah.
wired, emotions are contagious. We're
Yeah.
wired to,
Yeah, for
kind of
sure.
reflect and bounce off, right? But I suggest when adolescence comes, parents take the emotional leadership role in the house. And so
Yes.
I'm going to let my kids bounce off of me
Mhm.
rather than me bouncing off of them.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
think about, well, how do you want your kid to feel? I want them to feel relaxed, peaceful. Oh, okay. Well, then let's start with mama.
Yes. Oh, it's so brilliant because not only are you going to feel more relaxed and peaceful because that feels better to you, but you are modeling that for them because they don't know what they're doing, right? And if we're depending on them for our emotions, goodness sakes. But if we are setting that, level, that bar or that, vibration, however you want to, or the
Yeah,
calm nervous system state, we're regulated, we can co-regulate with other people. We can hold that space for them.
right. So it's like, you can be all stressed out and crazy, but you walk into a church or a spa or even like a
Mhm.
library or something, and the environment sort of takes on this, you're like, oh, kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Like, we can do that with our
Yes.
homes so that our kids
Yes.
can go to middle school, soak up all the crazies from all the other middle schoolers
Right.
who are
Totally.
insecure and judgmental and trying to figure out who
Yes.
they are and don't have their identities figured out, right? They're a hot mess. And then the kids come home and they wring out. They soak up all that energy, they wring it out. But then if you can maintain this dominant vibration. I
Yeah.
remember reading this study one time. They wanted to figure out who has the most powerful emotion in the room, like who
Mm.
entrains the other brains. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they put all these caps on their heads. They're like monitoring everybody's wires, and so they can see which emotion they're in
Yeah.
when they enter the room. And they had all these like different personalities coming in,
Yeah.
and they kind of thought that the strongest personality would be
Mhm.
the one to like entrain all the other brains, or maybe
Mhm.
the fearful one or the angry one or some of these like
Yeah.
strong emotions, right? What they found out is that the person who ended up entraining all the other brains in the room
Mhm.
was the calmest.
Mhm. Oh,
That
wow.
the calmest person in the room
Mhm.
has more power
Yeah.
than anybody else. And so that's just
Yeah.
so good for us moms to remember
Yes.
that if we can calm ourselves down,
Yes.
then we're more likely to be able to entrain our kids' brains to match us
Yes.
than if we are, you know, scared with them, oh my God, I can't believe the teacher said that. You did what? Like, were they nice to you today? Sometimes
Yes.
moms, we try to show support for our children by interviewing for pain. Were
Mhm.
your friends nice to you today? What did the teacher say? Did
Mhm.
he change your grade? It kind of like we
Oh,
want to
wow.
bond, and
Mhm.
we do it through like, tell me all the crap.
Interesting. Yeah, interviewing for pain. That's so interesting.
Where's the pain today? Share it with your
Yeah.
mama. I'm your person. I got your
Right?
back. but that does not help the kid. It teaches your kid to stay in pain
Yeah.
or suffering or struggling or who's out to get me or complaining.
Right.
And they have, in order to make mom happy, they have to be suffering in some way.
There's got to be something to talk about. And then your reticular activating system, you start to look for that. You start to look for people who are offensive to you and look for people who are rude. And that person just turned their head. And, it can be the littlest thing. And so, yeah.
It is a way parents think that they support their
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
And like, oh, my kid always comes to me with their problems, therefore I'm a good mom, or they know I have their back. But we're actually training our kids to look for problems.
Yeah. And that is so common with pain, where we've trained ourselves forever to look for problems. I'm good in all these areas. This is perfectionism too, right? Like these are satisfactory, but I'm not quite perfect at this. So I'm going to focus on this one thing and really, emphasize how bad this thing is.
Yeah. Yeah. And we do it with our kids too. We're like, oh yeah, you're great in all these other areas, but boy, you really need to be better in this area,
Yeah.
this area. And when we do that to ourselves, it's a natural overflow to start doing with our kids.
Yeah. And it is a survival state. It's the state of flight where you're like, there's a problem I have to fix. What's the problem? Find the problem, fix the problem. It feels so productive. It feels so important. It's really, heralded in our society to be in flight a lot of the time. What a good mom. Oh, you're hustling all day and night. Great. But
yeah,
what if there aren't all these problems to fix, right? Most of these things, this is teenage life. Things work out. Like us being involved. It's like my dog, he just got a cut on his paw and he's just been licking it so much that it won't heal. So they had to put a cone on him so he won't keep licking it and just like let it alone so it can heal on its own.
Oh, that's a great metaphor
Right?
for chronic pain or
Yes.
teenagers or whatever. Just like put a cone on yourselves. Sometimes we have to discipline our brain to steer it in directions that are healthy for us.
Yeah, just distract, think of other things, focus on things that are good, things that are working out. It's okay
Things you
to
love.
enjoy your kids.
Gratitude. Just to like, well, how do I want to feel?
Yeah.
What do I want to think about? What do I want to focus on? Like thinking about your values.
Yes.
That's
and
more
that
helpful.
is safe. That's okay to do. You will be not only a safe mom, one that survives, but one that thrives because you're regulating your nervous system and you're not overstressing yourself.
Yeah. And this, like overemphasizing, it's very easy to do with other family members as well as kids or good friends. Your best friend gets diagnosed with breast cancer. All of a sudden I call it falling down the well. Your best friend falls down the well, you fall down the well with her.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is terrible, and it's something we do to try to help. We're like, oh, I feel bad for the people. People on the news, right? Some school shooting or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, here's my empathy. I'm a very empathic person. So I'm like, I'm going to fall down the well with you so that we both are now suffering and we're both grieving and we're both sad and scared.
Yeah.
And it's something we think that helps.
Yeah.
And in a way, it can make the other person feel better because they're like, hey, at least if they know, if it's your family member or friend.
Yeah.
But if it's on the news, they don't know you're suffering. So it doesn't help them feel any better, right?
Exactly.
But it doesn't help you. It makes you feel worse.
Yeah.
Because there's something, you can only help so much. Like, oh, we're in solidarity, we're in this together. But like, it doesn't, in the long run, it's not great. But the other thing we do to try to help someone who's suffering, whether it's a teenager or a family member or friend, is we move into their life and we tell them what to do. I know how you could fix that problem. All you got to do is, oh, you fall down a well. Let's see, you got to shimmy up the sides and climb on up, and you'll be golden, right?
Totally right.
And then that makes us feel better because, like, oh, I have the answer to your problem. But it makes them feel worse because we're meant to solve our own problems. There's falling down the well has a purpose, right? We've got to build up our resourcefulness, our grit, our stick-to-itiveness, whatever, like that ability and knowledge and know-how so that every time we fall down a well, we know how to get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So we don't want our mom to swoop in and rescue every teenager that falls down a well. There's a reason they're down there.
Yeah.
It's their problem to solve. So if you told them what to do and they haven't done it, that's how you know it's
Yeah.
not yours, it's
Mm-hmm.
theirs.
Yeah.
So the way in which I like to think about this is like, let's say your kid has fallen down a well or a loved one. You see that they're at the bottom of the well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to jump down with them. You don't have to tell them what to do to get out. You can
Mm-hmm.
just sit above ground,
Mm-hmm.
remind them of where they want to get back to.
Yeah.
Like, I can see you falling down a well. It looks really dark
Mm-hmm.
and gloomy down there. But,
Yeah.
like up here, it's a beautiful day. The
Yeah.
sky is blue. The birds are singing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. I'm unfazed.
Mm-hmm.
You can be at the bottom of the well and know that you're not going to pull me down with you,
Yeah.
that I can be content and peaceful and ease even while you're at the bottom of the well. It's
Mm-hmm.
such an important life skill to learn if you have a lot of empathy and you care deeply about people.
Yes. I think there is a thought about empathy that, especially a lot of people with chronic pain are very empathic. I think we feel a lot of things through our bodies because, that's part of how we know we're empathic. We're feeling
Right.
these big emotions, and a lot of people with big emotions have chronic pain. So these all tie together. And sometimes there is this kind of helplessness about, well, there's these mirror neurons and it means I'm empathic and I'm just going to be the you know, set point of what other people are. But even when you're empathic, when you use these skills to create that peace, that state of calm in your nervous system, empathy doesn't necessarily mean this is a life sentence of you're just going to feel what everyone feels around you. That's the end.
Absolutely. In fact, in our challenge that we're going to be doing at the end of September, one of the things I'm going to be teaching is what to do instead.
Oh,
You
good.
know, I always say, like, empathy will use you if you don't learn to use it. So we're
Yeah.
going to use empathy,
Mm-hmm.
take on that, the negative emotions that other people are experiencing and transform it in the body
Mm-hmm.
into a positive, into love. We're going to
And
transform it.
it's not going to be like depleting to the body. And because that's the other thing people talk about a lot is, oh, their energy just drains me. And
How to take it in, transform it into love so that you benefit
yes,
and they benefit. And
I
you
love it.
create more love on the planet rather than more
Yeah.
worry or more sadness or more fear. You're creating more
Mm-hmm.
love. And that's what, as empathic people, that's what we want anyway.
Yeah. And I think
So,
we'll
yes,
be able to do that easier than people who aren't as empathic. So although it may seem like, oh, this extra burden to be empathic or even to have chronic pain, we can start to learn from that. We are more sensitive and probably able to alchemize into a more powerful emotion, I would say, because
you just need tools. If you have high empathy, you just need
yeah,
tools
yeah,
to use it because it is it is not easy
yeah,
to live in
there's a
this
learning
world.
curve. And how great would it be to figure that out so that we can help model that for our kids?
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
just about all we can do. We can't force them. We can't tell them. I mean, they'll do the opposite sometimes, but if
The
we
number
can
one
model
way
it,
children learn is through imitation.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, absolutely. All right, so I'll get to the fourth way
yeah.
that teenagers kind of trigger our survival brains and affect our nervous system is I can feel it already. My daughter leaves for college in 7 days, 1 week.
1 week.
So we resist emotions. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
as your child grows into adolescence,
Yeah.
a lot of emotions moms are experiencing, right? So, and it's all over the map. You might feel pride and embarrassment. You might
Yeah,
feel,
right.
you might feel like, so, happy for them, but sad for you, right? That they're moving on. You might feel
Yeah.
regret or sadness over the days that have passed that are no longer, no, not ever
Yes.
going to return or continue. You know,
Totally.
you're going to feel love and fear. There's going to be terror.
Yeah.
You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be rejected when your kid won't hug you anymore. Like,
Yeah.
what the heck am I supposed to do with rejection? Like,
Yeah.
you're my baby and I can't touch you. Like, what's
Yeah.
up with that? There's so many
Right.
emotions
Yeah.
that come up for parents while
Yeah.
raising teenagers.
Yeah.
And it's not, there's not a lot of room or space or even like appropriateness to feel them all the time.
Mhm.
Right. So it's like you're trying to get dinner on the table. You're trying to
Yep.
get the kids out the door.
There's
Right. So you don't
laundry.
have
Yeah.
time to like process all the emotions that are
Yeah.
coming up. And so I think one of the things that triggers our survival brain is this resisting of emotions. Like,
Totally.
I don't want to think about my kid leaving the house someday, so I'm not going to think
Mhm.
about that. I
Mhm.
don't want to feel embarrassed by what my child chooses to wear or the gender they choose to identify or whatever. So I'm not going to feel
Mhm.
that. And so we just kind of push it down.
Mhm.
And so that resisting emotions, whether it's grief, loss,
Yeah.
sadness, shame, all the ones like, we don't mind feeling excited and happy and loving and
Sure.
joyful. Like those we usually allow,
Yeah.
but the negative ones we kind of like brush under the rug and we don't really talk about it. And
Mhm.
so then it's just, we kind of just feel like you're holding your breath for the
Mhm.
decade. Kids are in adolescence for a decade, like 9 to 19,
Yeah.
that's 10 years. That's a long time
Yeah.
to
Right.
suck it up,
Yeah.
hold your
Yeah.
breath, cross your fingers, and just like hope everything's gonna go
Just
okay.
push, push, push down, resist, resist. Yeah, that what you resist persists. We know that.
Leaks and leaks out the sides,
It
doesn't it?
does, right? And so it's like that beach ball analogy when you're just pushing a beach ball underwater and then eventually it rebounds up more. And so it's like, oh,
Mhm.
I don't want to be that angry mom, maybe, or, I'm not going to show the anger. You're pushing it down, and then you explode. And
Or you finally get everyone to bed and you're like, "Oh my god, I'm so exhausted. Like I deserve a treat. I deserve some
mhm,
cookies and some wine and some potato chips." And those
mhm,
are like the convenient ways that moms reward themselves for a
mhm,
hard day's work. And it's hard resisting emotions, and raising
mhm,
teenagers are both hard, and feeling all the feelings is hard. And so you do
mhm.
deserve rewards. You just want to have like a reward that doesn't leave you hungover the next day, like,
Yeah, if it has a net negative, if you're feeling worse, if you're shaming yourself about it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so sometimes it's just walking through, helping moms how to walk through the fear and the letting go and the,
Yeah.
just the clean grief, the appropriate levels of grief of like, those days of doing crafts with my daughter at the
Mhm.
kitchen table, like, to say
Yeah.
goodbye to that. It feels sad, but in a healthy way. So we want to make
Yeah.
sure we're processing the healthy emotions
Yeah.
and then reining in the fear and the future
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can get caught up in like, I should feel this way. And I think that's one thing that
Yeah.
social media tends to influence a lot, and
Oh
other
gosh,
parents and
yeah.
culture of, I should feel sad when my kid's going off to college, but what if I'm not?
Right.
What if I've got some newfound freedom?
Totally.
I even have to resist like the happiness or the giddiness or the excitement or whatever. Like there's so many
Mhm.
shoulds.
Yeah.
Well, shoulds.
Okay. Well, that is so good. I love how you've combined them into those four categories so you can really see the insidious ways that we might not really be realizing that these things can sneak in. And like you said, I think it starts innocently with being, this great super mom. You can just anticipate your kids' needs and all the things to do to keep them happy. And then it's like not your job when they're 9 or 13
Yeah,
to
I
do
call it
that.
Supermom kryptonite. It's this like invisible
Yes.
energy drain, this invisible
Yeah.
toxic thing that your body is aware you're doing, right? The body is holding on to the tension,
Yes.
and like if you tune into the body, I would say like I've learned through years of chronic pain, like rule number one, obey the body.
Yes.
Don't listen to the brain. Don't listen to the
Right.
shoulds.
Yes.
Obey the body first and foremost.
Yes. Well,
Body
and
knows.
Really quickly, do you mind just sharing a little bit of your chronic pain story, as much as you want, really?
Yeah,
But I do know
sure.
that, the pelvic pains are like, that is a common diagnosis in the mind
Yeah,
body area right now. And so, yeah,
right
if you don't
now.
mind
That's
sharing your story.
funny.
I know it's like a popular diagnosis right now. It used to be like carpal tunnel when computers came out, or like stomach ulcers, and now like the pelvic pains and lower back pain
It's so
always.
weird to me that like pain can go in trends, but
Right? Yeah,
so
it
but
does.
yeah, no, so let's see, back in, I guess, so I was like 21, maybe 22 or something, and I developed vulvodynia, which I don't even know if they called it back then, but it just basically meant like pain in the vagina of no unknown origin. Like they
No,
don't know
like,
why it's
tissue
there.
damage or anything that they knew of that was, like,
Yeah,
causing
there was no
pain, but it was
trauma.
real
I mean, I
pain.
didn't have any kind of trauma, or
Okay,
I
yeah,
didn't have any reason to
yeah,
have vulvar pain. I just
yeah,
did. And but I also had some back pain,
mhm,
and that I, kind of kept under wraps, or kept in control, I guess. It was just like more than you'd think a 21-year-old healthy, person should have.
yeah,
Um, and but it was interesting because I ended up going to physical therapy
mhm,
for vulvar pain,
mhm.
which was embarrassing to be in your early
Yeah, that's
20s.
very intimate.
And
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
and I did biofeedback.
yeah,
So
yeah,
like they put like a sensor in the vagina, and like you
mhm,
squeeze it, you watch on the screen. And it, in a way,
yeah,
it was validating, because like, the worst thing for me was doctors being like this is all in your head. And
yeah,
I'm like, F you, like
yeah,
don't I remember saying to like one doctor, like the only thing stressing me out is you telling me I'm stressed.
yeah, yeah,
Because there's a difference between like mind body syndrome. Like I
mhm,
didn't understand what that was and how stress affects the body.
yeah,
I thought he was saying you're making this up.
yes, yeah,
So that's what
yeah.
I heard, was like, you're making this up. And I was like, this is real,
It's real, yes. The
And
brain produces
so that
pain,
was
it's always real pain, whether there's tissue damage or not, but yeah, the
Yeah.
medical
So the work that you do
lens,
is
yeah.
very valuable to people out there who are
Yay.
told like it's stress related, and you're like,
Yeah,
because of how I would interpret that. So yeah, and so I
totally.
went to, PT, and it was validating, because she was like, "Oh, you've got very weak muscles and what,"
Mhm.
and so that helped and strengthened, and I learned how to relax, and it
Oh,
was really
yeah.
helpful. But then once I got the vulvar pain kind of under control, it was a very slow, gradual improvement.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if it ever like magically went away, but it was just kind of like
Yeah.
your focus comes off of it, your attention
Yes.
leaves it, you
Yeah.
know how to relax, and then it's almost like 10 years later, you're like, oh yeah, it's not really that problem anymore. So, but as soon as the vulvar pain kind of receded, then my back pain
Oh,
exacerbated.
interesting. Yeah.
I started having really bad, and then having babies and carrying them and pregnancy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my back pain was horrible.
Uh-huh.
So then I go to PT and chiropractor and massage and yoga and Pilates, and I do all the things, and they all work.
Mhm.
And then I get TMJ.
Mhm. Yeah, but
So
okay,
then
I
I
think
got,
there are probably people who can relate. They're
it's
checking the
like,
boxes too. Those are all
yeah. And
tacit.
then, they want
Yeah.
me to do massages and like wear the whatever. And I'm just like, oh my
Yeah.
God. And finally I was like 40, and I'm like, I need to stop uh, learning to carry tension in the body.
Mhm.
Like,
Yes. That's so
how
good
do
of you.
I
Intuitive.
feel tense without holding it physically?
Yes.
Because I realized that was the problem, was a habit, right? So even
Yeah.
if I wasn't stressed, I'd be like outside squinting at the sun, and I would clench my teeth,
Yeah.
or I'd be concentrating. Or I don't, this is like my big moment, because soft skin babies, like when I love them so much, I love them, and I just clench everything. I'm like, I love you, but
Oh,
I don't want to squish you to death. So I'm going to
yeah.
hold tension in my body, right? So their soft skin was just like, oh, I love
Yeah.
that baby skin.
Oh,
So
wow.
what I practiced, I remember dog sitting somebody else's dog. And I was the same thing. This dog was adorable. I just wanted to like squish it. So I was clenching my jaw and
Yeah.
holding tension in my shoulders and everything. And I just practiced feeling love
Uh-huh.
without resisting, right? The tension in the jaw is the resisting love. And I
Mhm.
just pictured like opening up my heart
Mm.
and allowing the love to be there without feeling like I had to restrain myself or hold myself
Mhm.
back and just trusting I wasn't going to squish the dog, but just
Yeah.
like feeling the emotion
Oh,
of love and just
yeah.
finding a new way to do that. And I practiced it on someone
I
else's
love
dog.
that. Well, it's finding that parasympathetic calm state. Like the way you describe it is in your own words, but that's how I heard it is basically like you found something that regulated your nervous system and that emotion of love and that connection with the dog. And it was like a practice, like training new neural pathways to
That I
feel
can feel
okay.
love towards,
Yeah.
and because that was the problem. I loved too much, right? I
Yeah.
loved my
Well, you had
kids, I
that
loved dogs,
fear,
I loved,
a fear
well,
around love being
it was like a
dangerous.
resistance to it,
Yeah.
right? Like I can't express it or
Yeah.
allow, I just had to hold it back.
It's
And
kinda
so I
like the
learned,
resisting happiness maybe or resisting
yeah,
calm because you're like, "I have to be worried."
right. Yeah. Or like, oh, the other shoe's going to drop. So I don't want to celebrate
Yes.
because everything's going too well. So it's like a
Yes.
resisting. So I had a
Yes.
resistance to, or just a
Yeah.
suppression, right? So
Yeah.
to actually allow myself to feel like, what does love feel like as an emotion in the body?
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling. It feels, it's in my heart area. It's warm. It's expansive. It's
Yeah.
soft. And just to like breathe and allow that rather than running away
Mhm.
from it with tension, and like I had to relearn how to feel a feeling.
Mhm.
And
Amazing.
that's, what I
I love that.
teach now. Of course, life coaching was super valuable for that and all the mind body work. I mean, I did a lot of self help. So, like, that definitely helps.
Yeah. Well, it's so cool because it sounds like you figured that out, kind of in your own intuitive way, not necessarily with like Dr. Sarno's book or, might not have known the new PRT method that they do now, but it is that idea of like, you can feel in your body when these emotions are, very negative, when they're blocked in the sense that you're holding that tension, like using your body as that barometer of
Mhm.
your stress level.
Yeah. The best book for me was The Happiness Trap. I read a ton of
Oh,
books, that book.
no, I
Um,
don't.
Haynes,
Happiness
Haynes,
trap.
Happiness Trap.
Okay.
And for me, it was really good because he was like, I just needed this. He's like, put the book down and do this exercise.
Oh,
Don't just
yes.
read about it and intellectualize it. Put the
Yes.
book down and do it. And for
Do
some
it.
reason, that's what I really needed. Is like the perfect thing at the perfect time. And so I started noticing the body's connection to the thoughts and the
Yes.
anxiety and I was like, I could feel the benefits and the difference. And that's what helped
Yes.
me kind of like take ownership over it. Because before I would go to yoga or go to hot tubs, I'm like, oh yeah, that helps. But it was like other people were
Yeah.
helping me.
Yeah.
That was really when, and then just doing like self coaching and, learning
Yeah.
how to not, yeah, hold on the body.
Okay. Well, that is like actually the perfect segue to talk about our event that's coming up, our
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
5-day relaxation challenge. And we also love to just laugh at that title because it's like challenge, but it's also relaxation. So,
Like, what do you mean relaxation
yeah.
challenge? Like,
Yeah.
how is that a challenge? Well, let me tell you, it
Yes.
is. There's a lot of people out there, and people listening might be those who struggle to relax.
Yeah.
Or you think, no, I'm fine, I'm relaxed, but like there's a difference in the body actually
Yes.
stepping into that parasympathetic state.
Yes.
And you feel like there's a difference between like the absence of worry and then actually like a physical relaxation.
Yes, exactly. Like you were saying from that book, what we are going to do in our challenge, and this is going to be the last week of September, the 26th, yeah, 26th
26th
through
to the 30th.
30th,
Yep.
a
Hmm.
5-day relaxation challenge. And we are going to actually get experiential. We're going to do things with you. We'll lead you in meditations or different modalities for
Yep.
experimenting with calming the nervous system, right?
It's going to be in the body. It's going to be real time. We're not going to talk about, we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing and how it
Sure.
works and why it works, but you're going to actually get the opportunity to experience 5 different ways of calming down the nervous system,
Yeah.
connecting and relaxing with the body so that you can find the one that works best for you.
Yes.
Because some people, they hear the word meditation and it just makes their skin crawl, because it's so difficult to just sit and think about nothing. So there's going to be
Yes.
other options for you so that
Yes.
you can find the one that you feel like works best for you. And so then you'll know what to bring into your daily habit routine.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. Will you tell a little bit more about where people can find the information for signing up, for making sure that they get in on this, and what else we're offering?
Yeah, so we're going to do the challenge inside my Facebook group, which is called Supermom is Getting Tired. So that's the name of my podcast as well as my Facebook group. So you can go to Facebook and put in the search bar, Supermom is Getting Tired.
And you don't have
And
to be a mom, by the way. You don't have
it
to
is
be a
a
mom
it,
to
it is
participate in the
a
challenge.
request to join. So you have to ask to join the group. It's a closed group. It's not open to the public. So
Oh,
you
okay.
do request, and then we will approve you and have you join. And then we're going to be doing it every day at the same time. We'll meet together, come together inside the Facebook group, and we're going to actually get you calm down and relax. It's going to be the best part of your day.
Yes.
That I feel like it's like a little gift you get every day to just reconnect and feel really, calmed down and relaxed. So, and then at the end of the week, we're going to have some giveaways and some freebies and things for people to enjoy and take with them. So you'll get to experience it every day for 5 days, and then you'll have things to take with you afterwards to really help integrate it into your life.
Yes, perfect. All right. Well, this is going to be amazing. I'll have more details about Torie and about our relaxation challenge at the end of this month in the show notes. So be sure and click on the link and look in there for all of
Yeah,
the
and
details.
invite your friends. If you have friends that are stressed out and they need help relaxing, send them the invitation, tell them to join the Facebook group, because we all know who needs help relaxing. We all have those people in our lives, right?
Yeah. And
if they struggle to relax,
they can join if they're not a mom, right? They can. Yeah.
Everybody
We're not going
needs
to ask questions about that.
Yeah, it's not going to be catered to moms of kids at any ages or whatever. It's really just for you to reconnect with your nervous system, really, and like how to be in the master of it rather than like it running you. We want you to run it.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. I feel like we could just talk forever about this because our two worlds really overlap so much, and especially with the chronic pain, you really have that insider's view on the body and the importance of that emotional and nervous system regulation.
Absolutely, yes, we are definitely have similar missions and kindred spirits.
Totally.
So thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
My pleasure. All right. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned a little bit about your brain today that helps you in your life like it helped me. Please be sure and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, be sure and share this podcast with someone you know that wants an unstoppable body and mind.